the game that will be going on today, and more details, of course, to that will be coming through from 2 to 3 p.m. with Linda, Susie, and together with Owen, Linda in there, and Owen Zaga in there. And I want to inform you that all these programs are there to keep you updated, informed, also entertained as well in all spheres of life, because I do understand that people who love sports, others love music, others love movies, and all that only happens here on West Nile TV. For those who love movies, the movie time also will be coming through in the due course of the day, and many other programs as well to cater for you also still shall be coming your way. And that's why we must watch West Nile TV all times. That is on Star Times channel 477, and that's solely you can also be able to watch us on Zuku, and we are there on channel 0073, and online, of course, across all our socials, where you can be watching us anytime and anywhere and in any part of the world. That is actually where the beauty of the station is. It does not also require you to carry a whole TV with you. All you need to do is have a device that is connected to the internet, and you will be in position to watch your biggest programs. For those who love Chuku, it will be coming through. For those who love the news, definitely news bulletins are there to also keep you informed, and all that can be also accessed each and every time. And now to begin our discussions for this morning, which is our final edition for this week, and today happens to be the 16th of the month of August. And my name is Farish Majid, and now to begin off the discussions officially, police arrest 2 youth amid this renewed protest. And that's also the anti-corruption march. That's also where we are seeing now police in Kampala have arrested 2 persons also during a protest march to Parliament, where they were demonstrating also against what they described as rampant corruption in the country. And that is one thing also which we did see them also protesting against the August House. We did see also them taking a break, but now we have seen them returning, and police is also back to also really make sure that whoever wants to appear on the streets is also dealt with. That means police is not sleeping. Now the 2 detainees were apprehended on Parliament's Avenue on Thursday, as they joined also 16 other protesters, resuming their anti-corruption demonstrations in Kampala in there. Now Mr. Oluko Westjira, the Kampala Metropolitan Deputy's police spokesperson, confirmed the arrest and stating that we have 2 people whom we arrested this morning, and they are here at the Parliament where we did arrest them from. And that means also these people were arrested as they plan to move to Parliament in there. And now the youth carried banners with slogans such as "Join the 190, the citizens," a nationwide anti-corruption protest march to Parliament. And that's also where with this them also moving in there against corruption in there. And that is one thing also which I want to say, and I also want to inform you of. Now recent protests have also had the same issue led. That is over 100 youths on July and 23rd and 25th of this month, of last month. We are subsequently also charged with common nuisance at different courts, and eventually granted, that is bail, after spending weeks in Luzira prison. Now President Museveni condemned the protests, claiming that foreign interference, accusing them also of being behind what we call these protests in there. And now the president recently came out during the Youth Day celebrations to ask the youths to use the right channels to echo out their grievances. And this is sort of where I want to ask you now, the viewer, what are some of those right channels which you feel President also should also recommend to these youths, other than also the peaceful demonstrations in there, so that their voices can be heard. If at all they feel disgruntled, then their voices also should be heard by the government in there. Now, this is also where I want to now ask you, the viewer, also suggest some of those methods also you think, other than moving with the placards to the streets, the youth also need to use in there as an alternative to also marching to Parliament in there. Now, President Museveni condemned protests, claiming that there are some foreign interference also from some foreign countries who are funding this protest. So now to the protesting youth also vowed to continue their campaign until the Speaker of Parliament, that is, and the 4 backbench commissioners, resign over involvement or in the controversial shillings 1.7 billion, which also recently came out, where court also already announced that this money was actually legal money, and this people actually got this money legally. And then it means that it is the clerk to Parliament who also already did the mistake. And that is where we will be seeing the clerk to Parliament also really answering to the queries as to how this money was actually allocated to the 4 backbench commissioners, where we did see Matthias Mpuga bagging 500 million, legislator like Simon Surwanyi taking 400 million, Esther Foyochan of Zomba District also already bagging 400 million, and that's already a Campurira also already getting some money in there. And that's only where we did see them also now being told that they are actually not criminals, they got the money legally. not only, it is actually the clerk to parliament who also authorized money without parliament's approval in there. Now, during a Thanksgiving ceremony for our deputy, Thomas Tayeb, also last month, Mr. Among declined to call also to resign, questioning also that I have had some people also say I should resign and go where? These are questions already she asked in there. Now that I still have one more term, when I finish my 5 years in the next term, I will give to my younger brother Thomas Tayeba to take over in there. Now it's not good to cling to power. That is what also already the legislator also already did say in there amidst also already calls by the youth to have also leave the office in there, and that is where I will be following up the discussions. And remember, many people have actually come out to criticize the criteria court has also already used, and also they also raised doubts. Also the courts also already, as they also described these 4 backbench commissioners as also already innocent in there. That means also already we need to follow up on that matter and what exactly the legislators will be saying. I will be also doing that later on, and that's also already where I should say I'm going to be also dwelling very much on that. And leaving that aside, on Thursday this week, which was yesterday, 4 more bodies were recovered from the Chitezi landfill. It's another story that we are seeing on the past morning. Remember on Saturday last week, we also lost people who died also already as a result of garbage causing havoc. That is at Chitezi landfill, that's in Wakiso district, where garbage from areas of Wakiso, Kampala were being dumped, but that is also where we did see after the garbage compiling and also becoming heaps also in there. And also what we did see was also the garbage caused havoc, killing people through destroying their houses, and many people had actually been suffering, and that's also where we are following up on that matter. And remember, over 30 people have been declared missing, as over 30 also died, but that is also where efforts to also find out if at all these others are still alive or they have died is ongoing in there. And that's also where we did see 4 more bodies being rescued yesterday. That is by the search and rescue team combing the garbage collapse. And that is today's landfill also already have recovered 4 more bodies. That is as per yesterday in there. Now the identities of the new victims recovered on Thursday have not been established yet, and now that leads also the death toll to rise to 34. And by yesterday they were 30. By yesterday morning they were 30, but by evening they were 34 in there. We now, with police updating the number of missing persons, which we also now identify that 29 people are still missing. Could they be still covered underneath the garbage? That is something also we are yet following up on. And I will be in position to let you know if at all these bodies will be recovered in there. Now, tons of garbage collapsed on homesteads in Chitezi landfill, also killing many people and also burying many others also in there by destroying the houses, such as the houses also and many other properties. And that is one thing also where we did see that happening. And the tragedy also left the city authorities with eggs in their face after revelations also of negligence surfacing in there. And this is, remember, a developing story. And when also any issue comes out of that, I will be still coming back in position to let you know any development coming out from that area in there. But information from yesterday indicates that 29 persons are now still reported missing, as the death toll rises to 34 in there, because 4 more new bodies we are actually recovered from that tragic incident in there. And that is where today we have people who have been left homeless. But yesterday I want to inform you also a good well-wisher came out also in there and saying that he is going to be paying school fees for the 4 children who lost both parents in this tragic incident, and they also offered to also give shelter to some of these people in there. That's also what we expect from the good people, if at all. That's also where we get the chance, if at all we get the chance also of helping. Why don't we help in there? That is also something which I feel at the end of the day it will be quite well in there. If there's any development in that, I will be letting you know as we get move on with the show. But as we get to look on some of the areas, residents local police post accuse OC of corruption. And also what we call criminal collusion is another story that we are finding this morning in the papers, and that is on the Nile Post, where we are seeing angry residents in Kabarwa sub-county in Bukeda district have on Thursday locked up the local police post that is demanding also the immediate transfer of its officer in charge. That is Mr. Olile Wilberforce, also Wilbrod also in there. That is one thing we are seeing on the papers, as angry residents also in Bukeda district have locked up the police post, also demanding for the transfer of the OC over what they termed as criminal collusion. And that is where we are going to be looking at the discussion. And now the protesters also accused Mr. Olile of corruption and selective enforcement of the law and collusion with criminals, as several gathered solely at Kabora police post carrying placards that read Olile is corrupt, transfer him immediately, and they barricade also that the officers also with thorns, and 3 branches solely forcing police officers to flee with Mr. Olile, locked up himself also inside until midday, when assistance solely from Bukedia Central Police Station also came to his rescue in there. But really, how do you engage yourself in corruption, and how much do these criminals pay you? These are questions solely people must be understanding, because as you're holding that office, never think that the members of the society are not necessarily following up on exactly what you're doing, because many are going to be looking at what you're doing and it will reach its peak. And then that's how they will be coming back on the streets and also really make sure that they discuss about you. And once they do discuss about you, then they're going to be protesting against you. And that would also not be nice to also have you be transferred, and to be transferred with criminal record or with also what we call being forced is really not something nice. And that's where we're saying police officers, not only police officers, by the way, any public servant out there must desist from corruption, because we have seen people demonstrating not only against police officers, we have seen people demonstrating against many other persons out there. And that's where we're saying, if you are into that office, make sure at least you do not also really engage in what we call criminal behavior, because if you are engaging yourself in criminal behavior, at the end of the day, that is how you are going to be suffering with the point. Now, the unrest was sparked by an incident on Wednesday where a group of young men known to Mr. Olile as vigilantes also assaulted a border rider, only identified as Oberiang, leaving him fighting for his life. Also, witnesses reported that the beating occurred in plain view of the officer who also looked on. And that is how people lose trust in the police system. And how exactly can police also address this is what also these officers need to also really understand. Now, the protest also paralyzed activities in the area, also really affecting Kabarwa sub-county headquarters in Kabarwa, also really trading center in there, where locals also really surrounded the police office. And Kabarwa Lagos Council 3AC chairperson Ben Angura expressed his concerns about Mr. Olile's performance, citing multiple failures in addressing community security. He accused him also really of what we call accepting bribes from the criminal gangs also in exchange for protection in there. And that is one thing also really which I feel at the end of the day people must also really be able to desist from, because if at all they not desist from that, then definitely that would be quite difficult for them. And attempts to contact Mr. Olile for comment were unsuccessful, as the DPC's phone were also really unanswered. However, Bukele, the resident district commissioner, Mr. William Wilberforce Tukey, confirmed that he had met with the DPC and agreed to transfer Mr. Olile from Kabarwa in there. And that is one thing also really we are going to be following up on. But really, it's quite embarrassing for you to be rejected by community members who are to be led by you, who are to be protected by you. And it is the same persons now having doubts in you and rejecting you. That means you have not been doing certain things right. And that is also where you should be able to learn lessons from, much as you are transferred. Wherever you're going to, you should be able to solely pick lessons from what continues to happen in there, because if at all that does not happen, then definitely that would also subject you to total suffering in there. And that is one thing also we are following up on, as after attempts to also get comments from the man, we are in vain in there. And that is where we are going to leave the discussion aside. And now let's look at what happened also to, in relation to what also the commissioner's award was. And now court ruling also on service awards strokes controversy. But why the controversy? Because court has said these people are innocent. And now a high court judgment which approved the parliament decision to reward the 4 backbench commissioners a total award of shillings 1.7 billion has elicited also in what we call a compatible public debate. And this is within the legal fraternity. And on May 23rd, also where we did see Daniel Buete, a concerned citizen, also really petitioned the High Court seeking declaratory also orders that the payment to members of the Parliamentary Commission as Service Award was illegal, oppressive, and irrational, biased, unfair, and void as well in there. And he specifically sought a declaration that the meeting by the State House also commissioners to create an award payment is an abuse of office, and in contravention of the principle that the leader also really should not make a decision when he or her has a personal interest in there. And that is where today we are seeing many people also raising doubt in the service award, with many saying it is not legal. Others also are saying it's legal. And this is also now a debate that is between the lawyers, and the lawyers also have to explain to us where it is not right or where it is right, because the members of the public may not be understanding the criteria also within the law in there. Now, the commission also received the payments included as the former leader of opposition, Matthias Impuga, who took 500 million, Solomon Sirwanyi, who took 400 million, Esther Foyochan taking 400 million, and Prosia Kampurira as well taking 400 million in the now. But High Court Justice Douglas Kakeronza Singiza, also really basing on the political questioning, also the doctrine on Tuesday, ruled that the commissioners committed no illegality, also saying that the payment was approved by Parliament and informed part of the budget presented by the executive. In the, now, the political question doctrine is often used also by judicial officers to avoid also what we call contentious matters that may lead to confrontation with the executive or the legislator in there, and that is where we did see also the judge accused also the clerk to Parliament, that's Mr. Adolphe Mwesije, of acting beyond his powers to approve the said money in there. But really, how does the clerk to Parliament approve this money without the notice of the Speaker? These are questions only we need to understand. However, a section of lawyers have described the judge's ruling as ambiguous, with some saying it will be successfully appealed, and that is where we are going to be following up on. Are they going to be appealing this decision? We are yet going to be following up on. Remember, this is a developing story that has been there in the public space for quite a long period of time now, but when shall it end? We are following up on this matter until the last drop, and when this matter will now be disposed of, that is when we shall be also keeping quiet on this matter, because you deserve to be knowing what also continues to make round in and also within your society in there, because we don't want to keep you waiting after being informed. At the beginning, we leave it pending. At the end of the day, you don't know how this matter ends, and that's where we are saying we are not only going to be stopping at that. We are going to be continuing until this matter is finally and successfully also disposed of the public domain in that. Now, Mr. Buka, an advocate, also told the Monitor also that it was absurd for the court to rule that the clerk to Parliament should be subject to disciplinary action when he was not also the party to the suit, and that is where also we are going to be following up on. But how did they also approve the money without the consent of those who deserve to know the information? Because for this money to be approved, it deserves Parliament notice in that it is the Parliament also supposed to be also approving this money in there. Now, similarly, Mr. Ivan Bowe, a lawyer, said also the High Court of addressed its mandate, that is by holding the clerk Parliament liable when he was not given a right to fair hearing, which could also constitute one of the grounds for appeal in there. Mr. Aaron Kiza, one of the lawyers also practices also human rights, said this judgment also could frustrate the citizenry and civil society efforts to combat the graft in there. But really, how do people engage in corruption or what we call graft without also necessarily understanding whatever it means? And that's where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside with. But as the viewer, feel free to drop your comment in there, and I will be also getting through and also read through some of your comments in there. But really, how do people rule the money without also the approval of others? Because I also understand that each and every person is supposed to be getting this money without also necessarily also first of all understanding whatever it takes also to have this money also to be approved in there, and that's where we're going to be leaving that discussion with. And we're just 2 minutes to 7:30 o'clock, which is going to be our first break. But we are saying, as the viewer, what you think about the decision and also the judgment by court to also really call this service award a legal one, because many people had been raising doubt about that. And that's where we are going to be also leaving that discussion aside with, and now to look at some of the stories happening elsewhere. Expiring national IDs giving more shelf life. That is another story that we are just seeing this morning on the papers, where now it also come out clearly that people who had been living in fear that their national IDs are going to be expired by the end of this year, we have also seen an extension now that these IDs are going to be valid for more than a year. Now, also another 12 months also in there. That means if I told you have been living in fear, now the ID also really is actually going to be valid, because many people's IDs, I don't understand, will be expiring towards the end of this year or at the beginning of next year, or early next year, where many are going to be having expired IDs. But we have seen also an extension now of a year. That means you shouldn't now live in fear of your ID expiring, where you may not be able to access certain services, because if at all the IDs expire, it becomes quite difficult for you to access certain services, and that would also really make you suffer in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving a discussion for the first half of the first hour with, and this is still the KOKOLIRIKO live show on Western TV. We are going to be taking yet another short commercial break, and that will be ushering us into more of the discussion. For now, we take this quick important breather, and we bounce back shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Kylian Mbappe! Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and limited passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that short commercial break. We are back into the second half of the first hour. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show. In case you're just joining us right now, welcome aboard. From wherever you are watching us from. It could be within West Nile sub-region, in Acholi, Lango, Karamoja, Teso, and other parts of the country. We are saying a good morning to you. Welcome aboard, and we are going to be doing the discussions with you up to the hour of 9 o'clock. And after 9 o'clock, that's when the news bulletin Lubarati with Fete Manuel will be coming through. And afterwards, we shall be having the Lubara Mabi program. That is only where, in case you need to understand the Lubara history and the Lubara culture, so that will be coming through with also really my brother Maurice Eriko. And later on, we shall be having the Islamic hour, because on Fridays like this, we also need to have time to also get back to God, because many times people go through a lot. And for that spiritual nourishment, or what we call the spiritual healing, you deserve to also really listen to what the preachers are saying, and that would also really soften your heart. If I told you had bad hearts, or maybe you're feeling through a lot of things, definitely if you listen to such also programs, for instance, that of the Islamic hour, then definitely you will be also in position to also really change your idea. Not only that, on Sunday also we shall be having what we call the Sabiti show still. They will be also really talking to you, and that is where, if I told you you're going through a lot right now, it could be stress, it could be poverty, it could be any other thing where you feel you are going through a lot, because many times people go through a lot, even relationship-wise. Sometimes people go through a lot, and that is where, if at all you are also going through that, all you need is this program that also really bring you closer to God, and it is only God that can also really answer your problems and also your queries as well. And that's where we're saying, if at all you are going through a difficult moment right now, get closer to God, and it is only God that can address your concerns in there. And that's where we're going to leave the discussion aside, and now to begin off officially with our second half of the first hour. Remember, we are 35 minutes after 7 o'clock, and now let's get into Masaka, where it was already underway to reclaim the wetlands. And remember, the country recently came out and also really said they are going to be embarking on restoration of the wetlands across the country. And this also did not only happen in Masaka, in a rural city. Warnings have also as well been issued. That means anytime from now we may see evictions being carried out. But how ready are we for these evictions? And how are we also not going to be subjecting the citizens to what we call abstract suffering in there? Because if at all we are going to be embarking on evictions without necessarily engaging on what we call the 3 E's, because I love a strategy by URA: educate, also engage, and also really enforce. And later on also in that, those are the 3 E's, which also really must be looked into before the last E there, which is now enforcement. And now the 2 E's, in my own opinion, should be also really hard at the moment, also really as we await for the last E, that would also really make sure people understand why they need to move away from the wetlands. And now in Masaka, Masaka now starts wetlands restoration, is the story that we are seeing on the paper this morning as we get back to also really have the discussion. Now, Environment Authorities Masaka District have embarked on an exercise to restore wetlands, which also grossly degraded in the area. And on Tuesday, also a team from the Environment Police and the District National Police and also really cut several trees of banana, coffee, and also really beans and passion fruits also really from Kititi wetland in that's in Kiamukaka sub-county, that is in Masaka City. In there. Now, Mr. James Bukoma, the Masaka Regional also really Environment Police Commander, said the affected farmers had earlier been also directed to leave the area, but they refused to listen, and that is how they came in with the last E, which is now to enforce in there. And now the Masaka District Environment Officer, Mr. Bruno Chiimba, say the district has a wetland coverage of that is 320 square kilometers, but had only 42 square kilometers of the wetland buffer zones have been degraded. That means people have encroached on these wetlands, but who exactly permitted these people to encroach on these wetlands? And how did they find their ways to also remove to these wetlands? These are questions that we need to understand. Because sometimes people claim the wetlands are actually their lands. These are lands that fathers, these were lands that were owned by their grandfathers. But a wetland is a wetland, regardless of it also being for your parents. We are saying you can use this land for other activities that shouldn't also really harm the environment in there, because if you look at fishing, if you do fishing from wetlands, there's nothing wrong with it. If at all you'd not also destroy the natural species also in the facility in there, and that is how it becomes very much bad, a very big challenge if not addressed. And that is where today we are seeing people suffering from floods, and flooding has become flooding just because other people have engaged on these wetlands. But how do we make sure that we do not also really affect the natural environment? Because looking at the wetlands, this is part of the natural environment. But how do we make sure that our activities on these wetlands does not affect the environment? These are questions we need to also have in mind as we are also engaging into these wetlands. Now, meanwhile, environmentalists in Greater Masaka have called on National Environment Authority, NEMA, the body also given to also mandate the people also working in the wetlands, so make sure that they open the boundaries of all wetlands to prevent more encroachers also into going into these wetlands. In the now, Mr. Abdul Kiwalabia, the chairperson of Bugonza Parish in Bukukula Sub-County, Kalungu District, said the only amicable solution against encroachment on wetlands on swampy areas is urgent also national demarcation of all the buffer zones also, so that people do not get to trespass in the fragile areas in there. Remember today, government of Uganda and also other non-party players have come in place to also really make sure that they restore the eco-fragile systems. And this is not only in Masaka only. I've seen this in Terego, in the wetlands of Yululu also really, and Denyao, where people are now embarking on also efforts to restore the fragile ecosystem. And recently I was there with one of the non-governmental organizations, that's Nature Uganda, and we did see them also giving tree species, where over 10,000 tree species were given to the people residing along the banks of these rivers I mentioned in there, and these swamps. That's also to make sure that it is protected. But this is also not yielding fruits, because today we have simple cutting down the trees along the wetlands in there, which also has made now the river boundaries to also open up. That means the soil that was initially protected by these trees is no more, because the protection from the trees is not done. And that means also the people need now to learn that also the trees along the shores shouldn't be cut down, because if at all you are cutting down the trees, we are subjecting the water bodies to what we call maybe destruction, which also destruction may also come back to us. And these questions already now as we embark on the Westland restoration. And today we have seen many people being thrown out, which has not also gone well with some people. And recently in Nansana, we did see over 100 families also already being affected in also what we call the wetland restoration drive, where people were evicted also in Lubiji in there, which did not go on well with some of the people, and some leaders also in there who raised ways and raised also doubts in the way government also took out its work. Also, that's to evict the people in there, the criteria that was used, and the channels that were as well used in the evictions also in there. And that is where some people did not feel well about the issue of also the evictions. Now, 2 people have been arrested, as also the police recover body of a man who went missing early last month, that was in July. And now police in Punguri district have arrested 2 suspects amid the ongoing hunt for others still at large in connection with the murder of a 20-year-old Badabada rider, that is Martin Twebaze, also already common known as Kagame. And Twebaze also already, who was a resident of Itegero Cell, that's in Kachenche Parish, in Yakishenyi sub-county, that's in Rukungiri district, went missing on July 30th of this year, and his decomposing body was found on Tuesday. That is in a Chunya Forest Reserve in Muko sub-county, that is in Rubanda district also in there. His motorcycle was reported also to be robbed when he was hired by Chrysostom Mugabe and Amon Asime, with the pair asking Twebaze to transport them to Itegero Trading Center to Kisoro, also town council, for shilling 60,000 in there. And that is also where we did see the man when going missing in there. And police on Wednesday said they are detained Mugabe and Asime over the murder, noting that they had been staying in Itegero disguising as casual laborers, but have they been thieves? And these are questions also really we need to have answers to. And according to also July 30th also police statement, Mugabe initiated also really, the ride at around 6:30 p.m. From also really Kampala Omukingiro Bodaboda stage, that's in Kachenche Parish, in Yakishenyi sub-county, that is in the Rukungiri district. And he was informed also a fellow Bodaboda rider that identified as Kato Benson that he will return the following day also in there. Now on their way to Rwanda, Mugabe reported also connected with Asime and another accomplice who awaited for them, that is at a Chunya Forest Reserve along the Kabale Kisoro road in there. That's also where he was hijacked, and I believe where he was also murdered and his body dumped in there as well. And when Twebaze failed to return to Chekisenyi on July 30th, on 31st also 2024, his fellow riders became suspicious. And the case of disappearance is now being investigated, and murder plus aggravated murder robbery as well as others are being also investigated by Eli Mate. According to information from Eli Mate, the regional police spokesperson for Chigezi sub-region, who also really made that confirmation in there. Now Mate said that Tuyesinje was found in possession of deceased motorcycle, leading to the arrest of Mugabe, who confessed that Twebaze was murdered in the Chunya forest and his body was dumped there. And that means at least 25 lives have been lost. That is to murder and accidents daily, and the 2023 annual coroner report also highlighted that. And that means people are not safe, and that means us Bodaboda riders, we need to mind of also our life. Let's be vigilant if at all we are going to be also really working for such money. The money may lose huge, but your life is not also really worth the money. That means if at all somebody tells you, come and carry me at a certain time, if you feel the place is not safe, please, I want to encourage you to desist, because these are bad people who are going to be murdering you much as they know you. They are going to be taking advantage of you, and that is also where they are going to be robbing you of this motorcycle and also really rob you of other property in there. And that is where I want to say, if at all you want to ride the bodaboda, let's make sure it is in broad daylight where everybody can see you, and also really where, if at all you're to move, inform your colleagues, because if such people are not arrested, then they are going to be doing harm to many people in there. That's solely where we are saying police should carry out its investigations, and also really now the body of this man also really should go and rest in eternal peace. And that is where we are going to be a discussion aside with government loses shilling 295 daily in interest penalties. That is to usual contractors, according to information from Deputy Speaker Thomas Tayebwa. That is what we are seeing in the paper this morning. And the Deputy Speaker of Parliament has revealed that the government loses shilling 295 million daily as interest and penalties are paid by Uganda National Roads Authority contractors because of failure to pay them on time. And Mr. Toev also observed that in 2023, the government legitimately also already paid and lost shilling 26 billion in form of penalties to union contractors, yet no one was also called to answer for the loss in there. But who exactly is mandated to answer these calls and also these questions in there? Because there are a lot of money which have also been borrowed as loans and given to these people and these contractors. But who is mandated to also make sure this money is not lost in terms of interest and also really, that comes as a result of delays in payment? Because this is taxpayers' money, looking at 295 million being lost on daily. If it's a month, how much money is this? And how many health facilities will actually benefit from this money that is being lost on daily? And what kind of kilometer road would actually be also really developed as a result of this money, looking at 295 million being lost daily? That means something is also adding up, and these are things also that deserve to be investigated as we continue to sing the song of corruption today. And these are questions that deserve answers. And now there are also laws, some of which we have got in 2010, and also they are performing at 30%, and we are paying and we are paying interest also because the interest is statutory provision. And now the deputy speaker also raised concern over that. And now there are also loans also which we have got that during that time also, which have also now accumulated. And now to curb government losses, Mr. Taeba also warned that it will no longer be business as usual, where people also the positions of authority and power occupy offices and also watch as government continues to make losses at the expense of taxpayers. And Mr. Bernard Odoi, Onen, the youth MP for Eastern Region and chairperson of Uganda Parliamentary Forum of Youth Affairs, has said fireplace conversations are a platform where the youth freely, without fear of contradiction, demand or ask for questions to leaders in relation to issues of corruption. And that is where also really he feels these spaces should be given. And Mr. Primus Bahigi, the country director for Netherlands Institute of Multiparty Democracy, has said fireplace conversations are spaces where formalities are broken to allow free sharing of knowledge from experienced leaders or to aspiring leaders as well. And now an idea that started also with 11th Parliament, fireplace conversations are a form of political mentorship services to aspiring youth leaders through also really where they get to meet and also exchange ideas. And that is where this conversation also really came from. And that is also really where I feel the leaders who are into these offices need to learn something also really of making government not fall in loss. Because if at all government continues to carry on these losses, then at the end of the day, it is us who also lose the taxpayers' money in there. Now, leaders call for equitable pay and staff retention policy is another story that we are seeing on the papers this morning. We are stakeholders, leaders, educationists from Toro Sub-region have asked the government to address or what we call disparities in the current salary structure for secondary school teachers and consider enacting a new policy on staff retention to prevent early retirements. And today you realize that most of the teachers are retiring early because they feel they are not also being favored, and that is where we see them also really going for other activities. And now, during consultation with officials from Education Policy Review Commission, which began on Monday and is set to end today, leaders emphasize the need for a new macro policy framework from the Ministry of Education and Sports. The framework aims to replace the outdated what we call 1992 government white paper on education. And Everest Nyomizima, the inspector of schools from Chennai district, said the teachers are demotivated due to the different pay scales, and as that is also a factor where they feel a science teacher should not be differentiated from earning with that of arts, because all these are teachers. And that is where the DO also really for Kawali also feels a lot of also issues have been pushing teachers off the teaching career. And that is where, in my own opinion, I feel that policy also needs to be addressed. And now Chenjojo District also Chief Administrative Officer Asman Masereka has said despite salary enhancements for science teachers and health professionals, some of them are choosing to retire early as 45 years of age, leaving the district in shortage of civil servants. But really, why are people retiring early? Is it that also they feel tired at a certain age? Definitely, that is also right. And that means if at all the treatment is not right, then many people are going to be pushed off the teaching career also. That's why we did see also on the issue, Mr. Masereka said if this continues, The pension bill will rise significantly as retiring officers are entitled to gratuity payments. And he added also that some secondary school teachers with master's degree are still earning salaries equivalent to grade 5 teachers because the position of also graduate teachers has not been updated to reflect higher qualifications. Also that's something, another story we are seeing, because if at all a grade 5 teacher is earning the same amount with a degree holder, that means many teachers who have the degrees are not going to be engaging in teaching, and they will be able to look for other jobs that they feel may also earn for them better money in there. Now, a teacher who wished to remain anonymous said also that the new competence-based curriculum is more demanding compared to the old one, and many teachers who are not trained with it and also really are feeling now they need to leave, and that could also really be another factor as to why many teachers also really retiring early, and that's also something we are seeing. And Mr. Robert Tibakunirwa, a chairperson of Bunibuja district, said that despite government's policy to have one secondary school per sub-county and one primary school per parish, implementation has fallen short, as out of the 27 lower administrative units in the district, only 12 have secondary schools. And he pointed out that among the 130 parishes, that only 107 have primary schools, with some parishes lacking many education facilities. And that is sort of something where we did see Dr. Amanya Mshega, at the chairperson of Education Policy Review Commission, said so we have been traveling across the country, listening to various perspectives, and have received over 200 memos. And we are nearing the end of the consultation and will soon prepare a general report for the government also really to understand what is happening in there. And that is where also really we feel we need to also really keep you updated, and also what continues to make rounds in there. At the end of the day, that is where also really I feel you need to know of what continues to happen and also what continues to make round in your areas in there. And that is where we're going to be leaving a discussion aside with, as we get to also look on some of the stories that continue to make round elsewhere in there as we get to move on with our second hour of the show. And that's story where we're going to be looking at some of the stories. Remember, as we get moving with the show in this region, we are seeing members on park, also from Parliament, also really moving across the entire country to also really find out how government is doing. And yesterday we were able to also see officials from Arua City being grilled. And today I do understand the team also really will be moving to other local governments in Mariokolo, in Terego, and in Maracha as well, to also really undertake the same in there, and that's so to investigate corruption cases amongst the local governments in there. But we did see yesterday over 3 officials being grilled over money also that was said to be paid to ghost workers. And in this era, how do we still pay money to ghost employees? These are questions sorely that we deserve to sorely understand and also really follow up on, as officials we also really put also really before the committee in there to answer. And today we shall be seeing also really the team moving to other places so to do the same in there, and that is one thing also really we are following up on. And remember, as we are also really facing challenges of what we call the MPOX, government has issued several standard operating procedures after global alert also already on MPOX in there is another story that we are seeing, where the Minister of Health has called for increased vigilance and what we call prompt reporting of individuals with MPOX-like symptoms following the World Health Organization declaration that also the disease surge continues as public emergency. And that's something also we're seeing the disease also really recently hitting our neighbors DRC. That means we are not safe, because what happens in our neighborhood may also really happen to us. Mpox is a self-limiting viral disease which presents also with pustules and also small boils on the skin, and it is associated with also high-grade fever, swelling of lymph nodes, and headache, and general body weakness. And if at all you start developing these symptoms, you need to make sure that you rush out to the nearest facility as quick as possible. Certainly you can be tested, and once tested you can be put on medication, because this disease is actually said to be happening now in Uganda. And while addressing Parliament yesterday, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, the health minister, said that at the beginning of the year, more than 17,000 Mpox cases and 5,000 also deaths have been reported in 13 countries in Africa, citing also data from Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention also in there. And that's where we did see Dr. Jen saying the highest number of cases are more than 14,000 is in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where we did see them reporting and registering up to 96%. And she said other East African countries that have reported Mpox transmissions are Burundi, Kenya, and Rwanda, where we're also seeing having secondary transmission also of the disease in there. That means we are not safe and looking at what continues to happen to Rwanda, because these are our bordering nations, looking at Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya. These are countries that we actually border. That means we are not safe. And our neighbors, also the DRC, where in Western sub-region, we are at the risk of contracting this disease if at all we not also take care of ourselves in there. Now, on the other cases that we are detecting in Uganda in July, also Dr. Chen said the 2 individuals were admitted and treated in Buera Hospital and have since been recovered and have as well been discharged with no complications. And this is the first time Mpox has also been confirmed in Uganda, and since then no new cases linked to the two cases have also been confirmed. That means if at all, as Uganda, we have only registered 2 cases, but we are not safe. And just like COVID, if you remember what also happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, we are saying that this is happening in Kenya. Little did we know that we are also going to be affected by the same virus. And what happened next, we are hit by the lockdown. That means we shouldn't wait for this lockdown of Mpox in there. That means me and you have to do something in terms of protecting ourselves in there. That's what we did see now. Uganda also confirming 2 cases. That means we are not safe. And this may not be the only cases being confirmed, as statistics from the Ministry of Health indicate that also the data from a total 42 samples have been collected also from suspects and sent to Uganda Virus Research Institute, where also they have been tested negative. And that means we need to also make sure that we take care of ourselves and of our families as well. However, the ministry also said the set of the persons with the negative does not mean the country is not out of danger. We are still in danger. Dr. Chen also said that, and that there will be no travel restrictions over Mpox, even after also already the global public health emergency declaration by World Health Organization and Africa CDC in the Uganda will not be undertaking what we call a lockdown for that. But we need to also really make sure there's individual responsibility. Me and you have to make sure that we are safe. And once we are safe, that is where we are going to protect our loved ones, where we are going to protect ourselves, because we need to protect ourselves as we move on. Because the disease is actually one of those painful sagas. And I remember when Mpox also really hit Uganda some time back, we remember how people also really had it. We are really going through a lot, because it is also really where you have to paint yourself white, where you get spots on your skin. Really, it's a painful thing. That means we need to also make sure that we do not also really get affected by this disease. That is quite simple, by also really avoiding contact by people who have the similar, also what we call similar like symptoms. That means me and you have something to do, and that is where at the end of the day we are going to be also really avoiding ourselves from contracting that disease in there. And if at all we do that, then definitely that is where we are going to be also really avoiding ourselves from contracting that disease. But it's quite simple: avoid contact and avoid moving to these places I mentioned, and that would also really be possible for you to also really avoid contracting that disease. And quite simple for those who are living within Uganda borders in Western sub-region, mostly avoid moving to also really DRC as possible, because we are getting the disease also really being reported in there, where up to 97 cases of the disease are being detected from that country. That means we need to also really avoid ourselves from moving in there, and that's also the way if at all we move, let's be safe. Because sometimes also we are talking about also not being able to move in there, yet we have families over the other side. Because looking at the borders, today we have Lubaras in DRC and we have Congolese who are in Uganda. That means we cannot also be able to also avoid the movements. But if at all we are moving, let's then avoid also getting into contact with people who have similar like symptoms. And remember that disease is one of the ways it's actually spread is actually through what we call sexual intercourse. That means if at all you're going to be also engaging in those activities, you may contract the disease, and that is already where you may be in position to already suffer in there, and that's where we're going to be leading a discussion with. And I hope also you now pick something, and you definitely know what to do when it comes to also fighting what we call fighting to contract the disease, which would also at the end of the day make you suffer in there. And to avoid suffering, let's avoid what I told you, that is contact, and also hand sex, and also as well as many other ways through which the disease can be spread in there. And that is where we're going to be leaving a discussion, and also rest in there. And that's where we're going to be taking a short commercial break, which will be ushering us into our second hour. Remember, before we get into the short commercial break, earlier on we were able to discuss a lot of issues, and I was able to give you an update on what continues to happen in Chitezi, where now the death toll has risen to 34, and today efforts to also really trace for more bodies will be going on. And remember, 29 persons are still said to be missing. Could they be covered underneath of the garbage? Definitely, we do not know. But efforts to also really make sure these bodies are actually recovered is ongoing, because looking at the incident that happened on Saturday, up to now, I do not think, if at all, we are going to be getting somebody still alive and the person covered by garbage. And you know, filth also really is something also that causes a lot of smell. And with that also filth and with the dirty water, definitely with the rains also, I believe nobody still could be alive and still covered under the garbage. And that's where we're now going just looking for bodies. And yesterday, more bodies were discovered, and these were 4. And today, will there be more new bodies found out? I will be in position to solely let you know come Monday. But with that, we are going to be taking the short commercial break that will be ushering us into our second hour. And remember, today's programming is actually quite interesting, where we have lots more for you to solely have also really as the viewer in there, where today we shall be having the Lugara Mabi, which will be coming immediately after the Lugara News. That will be coming through at 9 a.m. with Fete Manuel, and thereafter we shall be having the Islamic Hour and many other programs that usually run during the due course of the day also really shall be coming as well. And with that, we take a short commercial break that will be ushering us into our second hour. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Kylian Mbappe! Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium, Channel 259 and Channel 246. Starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back to the short commercial break. We are now back into our second hour, just 3 minutes after 8 o'clock. Where are you watching us from? Welcome back also in a special way. I want to take this opportunity now to welcome you on board. and say you are most welcome for the KOKOLIRIKO edition of this last week, for the last time this week, also in there, where we are going to be discussing lots of issues. Remember, this show comes your ways every Mondays to Fridays, and it being a Friday, it is also really the last day in there. But this also really should be coming as a point of excitement, because as we are getting into the weekend, many people have also really been waiting for football to return. That's really where they're going to be excited. And now we are going to be seeing conflicts within the women who want to watch Big Brother, who want to watch Z World. Now they're going to be conflicting with the women. We are saying that shouldn't be what you are waiting for. And that we were saying, just quite simply, if at all, it is time for men to watch men things, which is football, allow them to also watch. And if it is women, also if it's women's time to watch what women contact, allow the women also to watch in there. That will also avoid problems, and that will also avoid unnecessary movements, because during this time, I believe, been interacting with women, because they have been telling me that at least my husband has not been moving, because usually he has not been lying to me that he's going to watch football, because there has been no football. Now the football is returning. Are you ready for to also really allow him go move? These are questions already that we also really should be also preparing for, because many times during this football period, we see a lot of gender-based violence cases, because women tend to lose trust in the husbands, and that is where we're seeing gender-based violence as well being registered. And that means we need to avoid that. And to avoid that, that is quite simple, where we must also now understand each other in there. And now remember, the country is still mourning Joseph Tamale Mirundi, who has been a presidential press secretary, and who was also one of those journalists who stood out in this country, and also really with the issues also really with many also really loving him and others really hating him. But that's only where we did see the country also recently losing him, and he will also be buried over this weekend in there. And remember, preparations already underway upon also this man to also be buried in there, and that is where we also going to be living that also there aside. But on Sunday, I do understand that he will be buried also in his ancestral home, that is in Rakai district in there, and that is where we're going to be seeing, and I will be informing you what the leaders say at the burial, because this is not just an ordinary person. This is a big dignitary also, where I do understand, and also we expect lots of dignitaries to also attend the burial ceremony also over the weekend in there. And that is where I will be letting you on Monday to know what also unfolds out of the burial in there. And leaving that aside, Kiswahili teachers to be rolled out at district level, and that is what we are seeing, where Kiswahili teaching is to be rolled out at district level is another story that we are seeing, where Office of the First Deputy Prime Minister, who is also Minister for East African Community Affairs, has announced final plans to promote the Kiswahili language in Uganda, where the ministry will establish Kiswahili learning and what we call teaching centers at the districts and also local governments levels, with the initiative set to be launched in Jinja on October 22nd, also this year. That's of 2024 in there. And now Mr. James Magode Ikuya, the State Minister for East African Community Affairs, shared the plans at the press conference held that's at the Kingdom Kampala on Thursday, representing his superior, that is Right Honorable, that's Miss Rebecca Kadaga. Also really where we did say I started also the rolling out of the program at various levels will expose also Ugandans to Kiswahili, helping them develop what we call language skills gradually in there. Remember today, if at all we are to have our official language as the African community, it is actually Kiswahili, because if you look at Kiswahili, it is actually spoken in across borders. You move to Kiswahili, you move to Tanzania, you find people speaking Swahili. You move to Kenya, people are speaking Swahili. You move to Tanzania, people are speaking Swahili. You move to Rwanda, you find people speaking Swahili. You move to DRC, and today the easiest language for people to interact is actually Kiswahili. And recently we have seen South Sudanese also really speaking Kiswahili. That means Kiswahili is actually one of those African languages that we should also really prioritize, also really developing as East African community. If at all we are to have a standard language, then it should be Kiswahili, and that is where I want to support the motive and the idea of the teaching being rolled out to district level, and also really at the various local government level in there. And that is one thing also really which I feel will also really be able to develop the language in there, if at all we establish centers across the country. Additionally, a group of Kiswahili cadres have been sent, that is to a 7-day tour of Tanzania and Zanzibar, to immerse themselves in Kiswahili speaking environment, and the experience also really will allow them to share knowledge and further develop their language skills. And during the press conference, Todong also emphasized the learning Kiswahili that could help address regional employment challenges, as many citizens struggle to find jobs due to communication barriers, which is really a reality. Today, you can hardly go to Tanzania if you do not know Kiswahili and also really be employed in there, because how are you going to be interacting with the people? let's say in business, how are you going to be selling the property and how are you going to be selling the ideas? These are areas where I feel it would also really be of great importance to also have the language also really as the East African language in there at the end of the day. And that would also really bring in development. And today we don't talk about development. Many people are actually raising a lot of issues also in relation to what continues to make ground in there. And that is also really at the end of the day where the beneficiaries of the 7-day tour of Zanzibar and Tanzania are welcomed also really, welcome the opportunity expressing hope for social and economic also transformations as they explore also the biodiversity of also the coastal region in there. And really that is where I feel it's quite good. And Amos Wambede, Mukono Councillor and one of the students said, I thank God for this program, and also it will help me learn the language. I've met people I would never have met before, and I'm really happy that this program also really, and now I want to urge each and every person to join, regardless of political affiliations. Let's enjoy the language together. And Fred Kasaija and other students shared, I've been learning Kiswahili since September last year. As Ugandans, we need Kiswahili for communication in hospitals, public spaces, and education as well. And the language will unite us and fight corruption, as well as now I can now speak the East African language, and I feel that is where he will be also really learning and also using the language to also really address himself in there. Now, Julius Kemirembe, all that we expect to interact with many Tanzanians and also really learn a lot from them in this study visit in Tanzania in there. And really Kiswahili is actually one of those languages which I feel we must also really give priority to, because if at all we do not develop the language, how are we going to be at the end of the day, and where are we going to be with the language? These are questions really which we need to find answers, because looking at Kiswahili in Tanzania, you find people are united. And what is the uniting factor? It is language. Which language am I talking about? It is Kiswahili. And you move to Uganda, we do not have any language that unites us. You move to Bunyoro, people are speaking Lunyoro. You move to Buganda, people are speaking Luganda. You move to Teso, people are speaking the Itesot. You move to Bigisu, people are speaking Lugisu. You come to West Nile, you find people speaking very many languages, because we do not have a uniting language. And this is where West Nile, which is named in English, also really is to a disadvantage, because you move to Greater Nebi, people are speaking the Aluru language. You move to Arua, this side, you find people speaking different languages, mostly in Greater Arua. You find in districts of Marata, Terego, Arua itself, people are speaking what we call Lugbara. Then you move to Madi sub-region, people are speaking Madi. You move to Kakwa, people are speaking Kakwa. And this is where we do not have any uniting language as a region. And what would be the uniting language? In my own opinion, it would actually be Kiswahili, where people would also speak in Kiswahili, other than also depending on English as a language in there. I really feel that would be quite well. What do you think about it as a viewer, and how can we actualize this dream of having Kiswahili as our national or official language in there? Because I really feel that would do a lot, and that would also really address the concerns of corruption and the concerns of disunity among the citizens in there. And really that would be quite well if at all we did that. What do you think about it as the viewer? And that definitely I would also really be able to leave that entirely in your hands in there. Now, the 3 million in East Africa struggle to find food is another story that we are seeing on the past morning, where the 3 million people in East Africa struggle with food shortage is another story that we are seeing on the paper this morning. And now Tanzania has the lowest number of people also skipping meals or surviving without essential diets, as 33 million also people are classified as food insufficient in the East African nation in there. Now, according to a new report by the Alliance for Green Revolution Africa, we did see 9.2% of the Tanzanians we are living in also what we call difficult conditions, having also to skip meals or survive on limited diets. But also that's something we did see a situation which would be worse in South Sudan. In that means also really we need to work on food security, and that means areas which are fertile, we must embark on planting foods. And if at all we are to also really sell this surplus to these neighboring countries like Tanzania, which is now said to be suffering with food shortage, and then that definitely would also really be of great importance. And also, if at all we start the food, remember Uganda has actually been sending food mostly to DRC and South Sudan. Why then don't we also start sending the food at our neighbors Tanzania, who are now suffering from food insecurity? And that means we need to also really join hands in saving that nation, because if at all we don't also really save the surplus food that we produce, and then definitely we may still also be suffering and leaving many people to die out of hunger, and we may lose people dying as a result of hunger in there. And yet these are avoidable deaths. That means me and you have something to do when it comes to protecting food security in there, and we need to protect that and promote it also really in the strongest terms in there. And that is where also really we are going to be also really moving on with the story also really, and what continues to make rounds in also really what we continue to talk about in there. And that is one thing also really which we feel we need to also really not leave aside, and that would also really leave also many Ugandans also really outside India. Now leaving that 8 Ugandans in equities shillings and 1 million scholarship is another story that we are seeing on the papers this morning, where 8 Ugandans have earned the prestigious opportunity to advance their career leadership credentials at various universities around the world with Equity Leadership Program, where the 8 Ugandans among the 113 ELP scholars admitted to 71 global universities located in 22 countries around the world. And now Equity Bank Group Foundation Executive Chairman James Mwangi commissioned the airlift that is of the 113 scholars drawn from 4 countries, with Kenya taking in 82 scholarships, followed by Rwanda with 21, while DRC has 2, and Uganda also really as well appeared on that. Now speaking at the dedication and flag off ceremony to celebrate also really the scholars before they travel for their studies, Dr. Mwangi challenged the students to be agents of change, leveraging the knowledge and also values and also the skills they will acquire to address Africa's development challenges. And also that is where we did see them also really very, very much being cautioned and also tasked as they go out to also study in there. Dr. Mwangi asked the scholars to build strong networks and innovate what we call to create lasting solutions to their communities and invest their ability to overcome challenges in there. Now each scholar will receive an airlift token that is of about 5.7 million Ugandan shillings to support their transition into the global universities in there. That is where we did see additionally a week-long boot camp also really equip them with necessary skills to navigate the transition to university life and thrive as global scholars in there. And this is what we also need to want. Also we need to have for the region of West Nile. We need to also really embark on also engaging ourselves in being part of such activities. Now the scholars will be joining universities or in different continents across the globe, including North America, we do South America, and also really Europe, Asia, and Africa as well. That means they will be going to different universities in there. Now, Dr. Mwangi emphasized the role of scholars in driving Africa's economic drive, and also particularly with the framework of Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan that is solely aiming to also make sure that the nation moves out of the bar line in there. That means these scholars must go and find and what we call the best practices that would also really elevate Africa out of the poverty in there, and that would be quite well if at all we also really support such initiatives. And if we support such initiatives, that would also really be quite well for us to also really be able to also really embark on as agents of change. And that is where we also want to call upon now those who have been sent as ambassadors to also really make sure that they develop, also they get ideas that once they come back, they will be exploring to also really have Africa develop in there. And that is where we're going to be also leaving a discussion aside with. And remember, so many stories also really continue to unfold. And that's where we are still going to be following up on. And remember, if at all we not only leave all these issues also to just go to pass like that, then definitely we are going to be the ones to suffer with the challenges in there. And once also we get hit also with the challenges, then definitely it is also really going to be affecting us all in there. And that is where I want to ask, if at all we have the opportunity also to go and study, let's take it keenly. And today you find as the learners are also really into school, many are actually not concentrating on their books. And remember, they are returning back anytime from now. I want to say many are not also really going to be concentrating on their books. And today you find children who are school age going and who are supposed to be in classroom loitering during class time. And this is really quite absurd. And as they are returning back for the holidays, you are going to be seeing them moving also to nightclubs, which is really something unfortunate, because I do understand that many of the schools are now breaking off holidays in the coming days, as others have already broken off. But how are the learners ready to also mingle with the society where they are being also kept in one place? These are things we need to understand, because the outside world is not actually a very good one, and this is one message we need to give the learners as they are coming back for the holidays, that the world they are coming into has also what we call inhuman characters. And more recently, a Chambogo University lecturer was actually also really arrested and also expelled from the university for using a sedative drug on one of the innocent visually impaired girls. a 16-year-old whom he had also that what we call his affairs with, and the man also said to be having HIV/AIDS. And these are things already which I feel the learners need to learn of as they're coming back also for the holidays in there. We need to also continue talking to them. That means as parents, as stakeholders, as community members, let's guide the learners as they are returning back, because many of them may be coming back with excitement, with a lot of excitement, which may also land them into trouble, and that is where also we may see them landing into trouble. And that is one thing also which I feel I need to keep them reminded of, and that means me and you must join hands in terms of preaching the gospel of good behavior during the holidays. And this should also go to the schools as we are planning to send the learners home for holidays. Let's continue telling them that the world outside is not a favorable one, because we have people who are of bad character, who are out there waiting to take advantage of them, who are waiting to harm them. And that is also the one thing also we need to keep the learners also reminded of, and that will also at the end of the day save them from those challenges in there. And that is where we are going to be leaving the discussion aside with. And now looking at still environment protection, now Deputy Speaker orders investigation into Zoka forest depletion is another story that we are seeing on the paper this morning, where the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Thomas Taebwa, has directed the Parliament's Committee on Natural Resources and Environment to investigate people involved also in cutting trees and also charcoal burning in Zoka Forest that is located in a Jumani district under West Nile sub-region. And remember, this issue of Zoka has often come out, but many people have not been getting the right information in also in terms of also protection of this forest and the forest reserve in there. Now, Taebwa informed Parliament on Thursday, 15th of August, that also he had seen media exposing many trucks ferrying also what we call charcoal out of the forest in there. Now, Zoka Forest is a natural forest range in northern Uganda, and that's only a forest component of the larger East Africa Wild also Moyo Reserve, and that's something where we are talking about this forest that today is facing depletion. And we have also seen people recently also coming out to fight over the ownership of this forest. This is only where we didn't see intertribal fights solely emerging out of that forest in there. Today, we are seeing timber coming out of there. We are seeing people carrying charcoal. But where does this leave the forest at? As we are talking about conservation of the natural forest today, and Uganda's forests are declining rapidly to what we call charcoal burning and firewood collection, logging and farming activities, and these are of all caused also the forest also cover to deplete completely in there. Now there is a high reliance on a biomass in Uganda, with 85% of the households using what we call firewood and 13% using charcoal in there. Now the forest cover dropped. That is from 20.4% in 1990 to 9% in 2015, which has also driven many energy current also needs. And currently also the forest stands at 13.3% according to National Forestry Authority in there. And now I request the Committee on National Resources Forest to visit Zoka Forest and see what is going on, and also report within 1 month on what is really going bad in there. Now, area MPs also back Taebwa. That is also where we did see Jessica Wawiku, the Adjuma District NRM MP, also asked stakeholders also meeting, also to held, that there's going to be a meeting also to be held at Adjuma District headquarters, where Wawiku say the 4 trucks that we impounded solely at the district headquarters during the week also they have moved out suspiciously without information. Now, James Mawai, Adjuma District also East MP, said that 501 Brigade of the UPDF is about 10 kilometers from the forest, where police posts exist in the area, but the forest is getting depleted at a high rate. That means somebody should be closing an eye somewhere. It means also something may not be going right. And Tom Alero Azar, the West Moyo MP, and also said that there is Godfather overseeing cutting down of trees in Zoka Forest. Alero asked the Godfather also to be identified and stopped to protect the forest. And that is where we did see traditional biomass, also mostly wood, also and charcoal used by households. And charcoal also has accounted for what we call around 87% of energy consumption, according to Uganda's also energy policy of 2023, which widely depends on biomass energy resources, has led to also forest depletion for firewood and charcoal. We need to also make electricity cheaper and also really accessible in there. Today now, with the government policy of connecting households to electricity, I believe cheapening the price already will make it easier for people now to start cooking using electricity, because this is also where the families use firewood for cooking. Because if at all we are making electricity expensive, what are they going to be depending on? If charcoal is a bit cheaper, then definitely we are going to be seeing people still relying on the prices, or maybe relying on charcoal and firewood for cooking in there. And that is where we are saying government also needs to come out and sensitize the masses and sensitize the locals about electricity and other forms of energy, for instance, gas, which are quite accessible. Today, you look at a bag of charcoal, it is costing between 55,000 to 65, around there, or perhaps even 70,000, depending on who is supplying you. But you find renewal, or what we call refilling of a gas, is not actually any close to that. It is actually less than that, and actually is energy saving. But many people do not also really embrace what we call other forms of energy. Looking at electricity, how many units are you going to be using for cooking? If I told you to cook using electricity, and how long is it going to take you to cook food? If I told you to use those what we call electrical appliances for cooking, trust me, you are going to be taking lesser time in terms of doing your work. And that means we need to have mindset change, and also tell the locals that much as we have been very much dependent on charcoal, we can now embrace what we call other forms of energy. For instance, electricity and gas. And that is where I want to say people should be able to also move away from tendencies of depending on other forms of energy, for instance, trees and charcoal, for also doing other activities in there, because that is quite bad, and that also leaves the environment also at the stake of suffering in there. Now, the Environment Management Authority report of 2022 also really showed a degradation loss of about shillings 2.3 billion, of which 27.6% is forest wood for fuels and also charcoal in there, as it predicts that if the trend persists, Uganda will lose all the forest cover in less than 25 years. And this is also of West Nile, Karamoja, and Acholi have all imposed regional bans on charcoal production, although the implementation and enforcement have not been successfully implemented in there. That means under the presidential order number 3, which we are supposed to be following, also many people are not also abiding by that. And now the government has been asked to consider providing alternative livelihoods for charcoal and also firewood producers and traders in the country, and backing on transition for their use of cooking gas and biogas, and not forgetting electricity usage in there. Really, if you look at these people who have been engaging in business that's of charcoal production and firewood, how can we make sure that these people also have their mindset changed, and so that they can't be able to engage in other practices which are not very, very much dangerous to the environment? Let's look at what is happening in Madiokolo, where people are planting trees, where people are cutting down the trees for charcoal. Let's move to Ajumani, where people are cutting down trees for charcoal. Let's move to Yumbe, which is actually one of those areas that is very, very much hit by the vice of cutting down trees for charcoal, because many people feel the charcoal that comes from Yumbe is actually the best, which is really a total lie, a total mindset. Also, that also what calls for total mindset, and that's why we're saying people must desist from tendencies of cutting down the trees. Today, you move at night, you find trucks carrying charcoal moving, and how do they pass? Who clears these trucks to move? These are questions that deserve to be answered. What happened in presidential order number 3? These are questions all that deserve answers, and really, if you are to ask, you find less answers. But at the end of the day, we still see many people suffering as a result of climate change. Today, looking at climate change, many people do not know the seasons, because the seasons have changed here and there. People entirely depend on God's mercy for production, unlike other years in the previous, where we'll know between this month and this month, I need to engage in production. And this is where we had the granaries. Today, we hardly see granaries because people do not know when to plant and when to harvest, because now people harvest and keep the food in the houses because of climate change. Because if at all you're going to be putting also the foodstuffs at a time where you think it's not raining, we see the rains coming and also destroy property in there. Today, we are seeing the granaries are disappearing because, first of all, the food production has in itself reduced. Many people are now not engaging in food production because they do not know what exactly to plant at a certain period of time. That means we need to also make sure now that we come out to protect the environment and conserve it as well as also really making sure that people understand. And those who have been engaging in production also really of charcoal and firewood, let's have government programs that can also really make them also desist from those tendencies. Let's develop government programs that should go to these people and also target these people so that they get also desist from the tendencies of what we call charcoal production. And that would also really help, in my own opinion. And at the end of the day, I feel that would address the concerns of people cutting down trees for money, because others are doing it for money, and then for also dependence on energy fuel. That would also make sure that people also really have the tendencies of disease from that. And in my own opinion, that would all address the concerns of that nature, and that would also really be quite possible in terms of also really addressing that matter in there. And as we have to move on, so many of these activities continue to happen. And at the end of the day, I really feel this would address all these concerns and all these matters already in terms of already making sure that the citizens also have something to do. Because if electricity is quite expensive, trust me, many people are still not going to be embracing electricity. Much as we are saying we have been connected to the national grid, but how many people can afford electricity? Looking at the units, and today at 5,000 you hardly get more than 10 units. And that is where also really some people find it quite expensive. That means government needs to lessen the prices of electricity so that so each and every person can find it affordable. And that's only where we need to have the connection of more families. And if at all we extend these rural connections to the villages, that would make government realize its dream of also really connecting households. And today we have also seen a target of more than 10,000 people also within Western Sub-region who are living within also the bar, also what we call the poles, who are to also really have connections also to electricity in there. And all they need is to have their households inspected and also rewired, and they are just required to pay a minimum of about 54,000. And that is where they also really file their demands for electricity. And with that also really I feel the prices need to be as well reduced. And that would enable many people disease from tendencies of depending on wood fuel and also really on charcoal as well. And that's where we're going to be leaving the discussions. And this is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV, the Friday edition and the final edition for this week. And we are going to be heading into the weekend. And as we get moving on the weekend, remember so many things are going to be happening over the weekend. And the games are returning, where today we shall be seeing a game, and I will be letting you know which teams are playing today and which games will be there tomorrow, and on Sunday as well which games will be in there, and that will be coming in our last half of the discussions. For now, we are going to be taking a short commercial break, and my name is Salish Majid. Stay tuned as we get back to you shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Kylian Mbappe! Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are back into the last half of the discussions. We are 33 minutes after 8 o'clock. That means we are just left with some few minutes to wind up a discussion that will be ushering us into the next program, that is of the AOL as a news bulletin with Fete Manuel. And thereafter, we shall be having the Lugaramabi and many other programs that will be following up in the due course of the day in there. Remember, it being a Friday, it comes also really with a lot of excitement because we are getting closer to the weekend. And over the weekend, we are going to be seeing so many activities happening. And that also really tells us we need to be ready for also the weekend in there. But how ready are you for the weekend? Definitely, that is also really where you should be asking yourself. But I'm saying, if at all we are into the weekend, we should avoid tendencies of celebrating unnecessarily. We must celebrate responsibly, because if at all you do not celebrate responsibly, you are going to be landing yourself in trouble, and you're going to be at the suffering end of it in there. That's why if you have money, do not also really overspend during this weekend, because you may not be having the money next time. You must spend responsibly, because during the weekends we see people drinking a lot of beer, people eating a lot of things. Really, that is good, but we need to also remind of the coming days in there, because on Mondays we see people being broke because they spent all the monies over the weekend, and you see people now starting to look for loans, looking for credit, which is not really right. My humble appeal to you now, as we are getting closer to the weekend, as you are excited out there, we are saying you must not spend irresponsibly. And that is where we are going to be beginning off our discussions in the last half with also the story where Chabazinga is hosting the King Mswati III at Genge Palace. Also in there is another story that we are seeing coming in from Jinja City, where we did see Chabazinga Busoga, His Majesty Gabula Nadiope IV, has on Thursday, also really 15th of August 2004, hosted King Mswati III, the Inyememo of Mswatini and the head of Swazi family, at the Genge Royal Palace, that's in Bugembe in Jinja City in there on Wednesday afternoon, which was on August 15th. Also King Mswati III, while accompanied by his wife Queen Make Lamoshwane, was received at the Genge Palace by Chabazinga, who was also in company of his wife and Hebantu of Busoga, Jovia Motesi in there. The royal couple also was led to the Chabazinga and Hebantu inside the Genge Palace, and the Chabazinga showed the historical people also photos of the past kings, also of Busoga and his grandparents, who were pinned also on the wall in them. King Mswati III also was in company of Prince also Dlamini and Prince Soshokila Dlamini and Princess Lindiwe Dlamini, and the Sotini foreign minister, that is Philo Sokantu, and Prince Sisabunu Dlamini and Chief Inkosi Maloi Mamba. Those are the people who have also accompanied the King of Msatini to Uganda, where they are meeting the Busoga in there. And that is where we needed the kingdoms yesterday. And today we have also our own kingdoms, which are just emerging. And we would also want to see such international relations also really to our kingdom. So in there, that to me would be quite well. And while in the palace, King Mswati III, clad also in a Swatini traditional attire, signed a royal visitors book, and later was ushered towards the dining area for a luncheon in his honor in there. Both kings also really say they look forward at developing their kingdoms and bonding their relationships also in there. And I really want to appeal, this shouldn't also really happen to Busoga. We also need to have other kingdoms also really have the same relations, which at the end of the day would promote development. Prior to King Mswati's visit in the morning, Busoga, also Kingdom's second deputy prime minister, explained to the press that this visit was an exchange also happening between the two kings and aimed also to what we call strengthening bilateral ties of their kingdom. In the and Haj Osman said that 2 weeks ago that also Mswati invited Chabazinga and his delegation to visit Eswatini, where they discussed issues of development on various sectors, which include promotion of tourism, health, education, and industrial development as well. And that is one thing also where we did see that happening. That's in relation to this visit. Now, before visiting the Chabazinga at the palace, King Mswati visited Kira Motors Eve, a plant that's at Mutai Industrial Plant, and that's how we did this that happening. We are also at the present at the event. We are first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of East African Community Affairs, Rebecca Litwala Kadaga, Minister for Presidency, Mili Babalanda, Minister for General Duties in the Office of Prime Minister, that is Justin Lumumba Kalule, also Asule, also Minister of Works and Transport, General Katumba Wamala, and Minister of State in the Office of the Vice President, that is Diana Mutasingwa, who we are all in company, or also the visit in there. And now others include the parents parents of Ihembantu, that is Stanley Buyole and Rebecca Buyole, the Honorary Consul of Eswatini in Uganda, that's Queen Bwamwine, and Busoga Kingdom's Prime Minister, that's Joseph Muvawala, among other dignitaries who also really graced the event. In that means it was a quite massive one, also really a big one when it comes to issues of exchange of culture, which to me I feel is really quite good, because if at all we need to also talk about this, then definitely we are going to still suffer and also really be lacking what to do when it comes to those issues in there. That's also something which I feel at the end of the day must also really be given keen interest to. And still going back to what happens in Chitezi, information also coming from there in the case that the mortuary is stuck with 7 bodies unclaimed. In that means also really there are some people who may also really be, families may still be looking for them, not knowing that they passed on, and now the mortuary also really is still having 7 bodies of unclaimed persons in there. Now, Kampala Police Metropolitan Spokesperson Deputy, that is Patrick Onyango, has said so that out of the 30 bodies that were recovered at the end of yesterday's, and since Saturday, 7 of the dead bodies have not been claimed. And Wednesday, police also reported that the death toll from the landfill rose to 30 in there, and that means the bodies are still lagging in the mortuary. That means so the families also need to be alerted on who exactly is also really still lying in the mortuary. It's quite sad really to die and your family do not know where you are, and that is also really something which we should always pray for not to happen to us, because if at all it happens to us, really you find it very much hard, because your dead body is going to be lying out there and nobody knows where you are. People may think you are alive somewhere. That is really quite challenging, and that's why we need to also make sure our communication bond with our people is always is not always perfect, because this may be people who located this area without also informing their families on where they reside. And now accident and tragedy has also hit them. Many of their families could not be knowing where exactly they are. And just like accident victims, these persons' bodies are still lying in the mortuaries. And who exactly is to claim these bodies? That is really where the challenge also comes in, because at the end of the day, we are going to be seeing them being buried in a burial that also to me is not decent or well according. And also that is one thing also really I feel we need to also pray for, and we also must pray for that when we die also really with our families, so that also our burial is not delayed and we are accorded that kind of decent burial. And that is one thing also really which is really very much sad at the end of the day, where we're still seeing dead bodies lying idle, because efforts also to still track for more bodies is still underway, because according to information from there, 29 persons are still said to be missing, and the numbers could actually be more. And that is where I feel I need to also let you know of any development when it comes to that area, in that I will be keeping you informed. And that's where we did see also that story being put aside. Now let's look at some of the story happening elsewhere. Now we are seeing the Judicial Service Commission also really now speaks out on the Justice Bukira's controversy. Is another story where we are seeing on the past. This is on the division where the Judicial Service Commission, the constitutional body tasked with regulating and disciplining judicial officials, has stated also that the matters concerning Justice Farida Samira Bukira fall out outside in its purview. Is another story also we are seeing when a letter dated that's August 8, 2024, the principal judge, Dr. Flavian Zeija, directed Bukira to hand over office, saying the judiciary also has not received high instrument of appointment from the appointing authority, also as a substantive judge of the High Court in there. Now she was requested to kindly hand over the power. Now in the telephone interview with journalists yesterday, the Judicial Service Commission Permanent Secretary, Dr. Rose Nasali Lukwago, say the commission has not yet received the instrument of appointment from the appointing authority as a substantive judge of the High Court in now. However, Lukwago pointed out that she had never received any formal appointment also really as one of the new judges, but surprisingly Bukira was also suspiciously missing, and that's something also which we did see happening. And Bukira was among the 16 judges that were appointed by President Yoweri Museveni in acting capacity in December 2022 on recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission to bolster the administration of the justice in the country. And in letter also dated May 13th, Prime 7 wrote to Parliament, conducting also really what we call the appointment of 16 judges, including Bukirwa as substantive capacity, also judge in that capacity level in there. And on May 28th this year, the clerk to Parliament, Adolphe Mwesje, wrote to the judges, including Bukirwa, to appear before the appointment committee of Parliament on also May 30th this year, with also original copies of academic documents and national identification, also for interface, with also really exercise was successful, where each exercise was successfully conducted. But really, where is the controversy also in there now? However, with the instruments also of appointment of 4 other judges were released, Bukirwa's appointment has never been returned. What exactly went wrong? That is where also really we need to understand, because if at all she was appointed to a substantive position and she was required to carry on the papers and she presented all of them, what exactly happened? These are things we need to also investigate and find out in there. Now the demand is that the Judicial Service officers under the umbrella body, Uganda Judicial Officers Association, have since demanded Zaida to explain the circumstances under which an acting judge is required to hand over office before the appointing authority's decision is formally communicated to the judiciary. And now Ujoa President Justice Olive Mukwaya Kazarwe states that the judicial officers body is also envisaging and also a situation where acting judges' independence already shall be severely eroded, as what we call a grant also to acting confirmation process also really hangs over the heads in there. Now that's also where we did see that also really coming up. And now the judicial officers have requested a meeting with the principal also judge to address the mounting concerns and also really uncertainty surrounding the confirmation process also really for the judges serving in acting capacities, and also really seeking to resolve the issue and provide clarity on their status in there. And now Kazari noted that Bukirwa's incident has sent what we call ripples of alarm to acting judges, given that they are also equally subject to what we call a confirmation process in there. That means people are not safe. That's where we are seeing them living under in fear, which at the end of the day may cause a lot of panic for them. Now Uganda Law Society President Bernard Oundo has requested that in absence of criteria and also process of confirmation of acting judges, Bukirwa's removal also from office should be reinstated, and Oundo has requested at the Supreme Court also already to expedite the resolution of pressing issues concerning judges' appointment also already to acting capacity in there. That is where we did see also already those concerns also already being raised. And what exactly does this mean to the judicial system, where people are now living under fear? Because at the end of the day, if at all they are living under fear, what exactly will that imply, and where will this put the people at? These are questions already now we need to also already understand as we move on with also what we're going to make rounds in the papers this morning in there. And that is where I will be leaving that discussion briefly aside. That is where also already I should be saying I will be putting us aside. Now let's move into DRC, where Operation Shuja and blossoming trade between Uganda and DRC is another story that we are seeing on the past morning, where on June 16th this year, General Richard Oto, the newly deployed commander of Operation Suja and UPDF's Mountain Division, presided over the handover and takeover of one of his senior commanders, that is from Kalembo on the Kasindi Beni Road. And while on his way back to his tactical headquarters, he saw hundreds of cattle being driven from Uganda to DRC. As he inquired the same, he was informed that it was market day for cows in Uganda. That means many people were actually coming to buy the cattle from Ugandan market and taking them to DRC, as Ugandans slowly as well go and buy goods from the neighboring country in there. And the cattle also trade between Uganda and the DRC is a significant economic activity, with many traders also involved in the business. Traders move with cows in trucks and then food from Pondwe through Kasindi to all the trading centers and villages between Kasindi and Beni, where more than 4,000 heads of cattle find their way to DRC per week. And that means also that it is a trade that is currently lucrative, that also really maybe bringing a lot of money for the government. But how ready are we to promote this trade without necessarily raising fears? Because sometimes we have suspicions that also really arise between also this trade between Uganda and South Sudan and DRC. But also to avoid that, how do we make sure that we operate necessarily without causing such alarm? That is where I will be also asking your opinion on, because that is already in the international trade we have seen between Uganda and DRC. These matters have always been coming out, but how do we make sure that we operate freely without necessarily also really having all these matters already affecting us in there? That's where I will be also really seeking your opinion on. If you're watching us right now, you have anything you also to say about that matter, feel free to keep the comment coming through as we move on with the show. We are just left with about 30 minutes to wind up with the discussions. And in these 30 minutes, I will be letting you know what is making rounds in the world of sports. I will be also touching something in relation to also really international stories in there, what is happening in Russia, what is happening in Ukraine, because there also really, I do understand that there's a developing story on what continues to also really happening in there. And I will be touching briefly also really in what is making rounds in Palestine, and all that is also really where we are going to be also really stopping the discussions with. And remember, today, Arua district will be commemorating what we call the International Youth Day celebrations, which will be going on at Arivo Primary School playgrounds, and that is where we are going to be celebrating and honoring the youth. And I really want to say in a special way, as the youth who are the majority population of the world, we must also really make sure that issues affecting the youths should be addressed on this day. And one of the messages already which I feel government solely to respond to is the issue of corruption, which the youths today are very, very much angry about. And today we have also recently seen youths coming out and also really say they are going to be moving to the streets because of the issues of corruption in this country. And today, as we are celebrating the International Youth Day celebrations, definitely as we commemorate this day, concerns affecting the youth also really should be addressed. First of all, the issues of unemployment amongst the youth needed to be given keen interest. And then secondly, issues of corruption, which the youth are very much angry on, needs to be also really addressed in there. And then the call should also really be to the youth to engage themselves in active politics ahead of 2026, as that will be the only solution to also really change their affairs in there. And that is where also really will be also really leaving that discussion with, as we shall be following up on what will be happening from that day. And Arua City also really is in plans and the process also really to have the day commemorated in there, because the recent the official date was actually this month around also 21st in there. And now we are going to be seeing Arua district joining also what we call joining the rest of the world to celebrate that day in there. And this will be today on the 16th of August, and this is already where we must now celebrate the youth, because to celebrate the youth is actually one of those very, very much important activities, because it is a national event which we must always honor. And the Minister for Youth and Children Affairs and the Minister of Gender and Labour and Social Development, that is Balam Atenyo, so recently came out and asked people to also really be part of the celebrations of this day. And that is where we are going to be also really asking you now to be part of the celebrations of this day. And for the districts also that have not yet organized, we want to see you also really organize the same for the rest of the youth within your vicinities in there. And that is where we're going to be also really seeing that discussion put aside now to look at what's happening internationally. Israel settlers also really touch West Bank village is another story we are seeing here. This is on the BBC, where dozens of Israeli settlers have set fire to houses and cars in the village that in the occupied West Bank, with also really Palestinian also really health ministry saying at least one person has been killed in that incident. Now the settlers, some of them are wearing masks, threw rocks and also and Molotov cocktails as they attacked also the village of Jit near the town of Nablus on Thursday of evening. That's where the Israel Defense Forces also already made that confirmation in there. Now the Palestinian health ministry said a local villager in his early 20s was killed. Also already another person critically injured in the chest. Also already that's also where the IDF also said it is examining the report of what we call the fatality in there. Now Israeli political leaders condemned also the attack, pledging to punish the perpetrators. One Israeli also national was detained. That's in Egypt, according to information from the IDF. And that means we are still seeing the place not being any safe. And footage also has emerged on social media, probably is also showing houses and vehicles set ablaze in Egypt also on the late evening of Thursday. In that means flames also smokes are seen rising above the village. Sorry, that's where we also need to pray now for Israel, also really for Palestine, as the war is also really going on now. Leaving that aside, ex-prime minister's daughter picked as youngest ever Thai leader is another story also we are seeing on the past this morning, where Thailand's parliament has picked Pentagon Sinatura, the daughter of billionaire tycoon and former leader Thaksin, as the prime minister at the age of 37. She will be the country's youngest prime minister and the second also really woman in the post after her aunt Yingluck also picked over in that scenario in there. And that selection comes just days after the former prime minister, that is Tereta Transfin, was dismissed by Constitutional Court. That is both from also Pure Thai Party, and which also came second at the 2023 election, but formed also really a ruling coalition in there. That means also that area is what we did see happening. I mean, Mr. Pentagon is the fourth member of the Soyatera clan to become the prime minister in the past 2 decades, and we are going to be seeing what continues to happen in that is also Thailand. In the now, the other 3 include the father Thaksin and aunt Yingluck, who were also disposed by military coups or constitutional court rulings in there. That means it is still the same family ruling within also the same legacy in there. That's where we are now seeing the young daughter at the age of 27 being picked as the Prime Minister of Thailand in there, and that is something also which we need to talk about. And now jetting to Ukraine, and now Ukraine's surprise advance into Russian dilemma for Biden. That's already we are seeing on the past morning, where Washington is absorbing the impact of Ukraine's lightning assault into Russia's Kursk region as the scale of Russia's President Zelensky's bold gamble emerges. That is something we are seeing on the BBC, where U.S. officials are assessing how the incursion might also really shape the political and military dynamics of the war, as well as the implications of Washington's long-shifting stance on how Ukraine can use American supplied arms. That is something which we have been following up. And remember, it is actually now more than a year that the war in Ukraine is taking place. And many people have lost lives. We have seen properties being destroyed. We have seen people being pinned, also really for being behind these wars in there. But how do we see all this matter now be put aside? Because if at all, we can also talk about what is making rounds in Ukraine, and necessarily also really without also talking about how this is impacting on the global economy in there, then that is quite unfortunate. And remember, the war in Ukraine had its own negative also really on the other economies in the world. Remember, Ukraine is actually one of the biggest suppliers of oil in there, and remember today with that war, many of the prices of the gas has already gone up because the places also that used to initially produce these been bombed during the war also by Russia on Ukraine in there. Today that has already left the world, and also that place dilapidated, and also today people are living there in fear, because if war happens in your area, really, it is not a good thing. We see people's property being destroyed. We see lives being lost, and the economy is destabilized. And once the economy is destabilized, then it becomes quite difficult for people to also really move into those countries. And investors cannot be attracted. And today, I really don't think if there are any investors that can be attracted to come and open up businesses in Ukraine. And this is simply because of the war. And that means the war has, in one way or the other, destabilized the economy of Russia. And that is where we are going to be also really leaving that discussion aside. And now to summarize the entire discussions of what continues to make round in the world of sports. And remember, the teams are busy in the market. And today, the leagues are officially returning. And today, we shall be seeing a game between Manchester United and Fulham that will be coming later on. And I really want to say Manchester United has had quite a good run over Fulham in the last 3 encounters in there, where we did see Fulham picking 1 win. But the 2 games were also really as well won by Manchester United. And earlier in February of 24th of February, we did see the game between Manchester United being won by Fulham, which won the game by 2-1. We did see Fulham losing, that is to also really Manchester United earlier this month, and earlier this year, and also we did see Manchester United beating Fulham by 2-1. That means if you look at the statistics, Manchester United is on the advantage of beating Fulham in there, and that's already where we are going to be seeing that game going on. And tomorrow, we shall be seeing a game between Ipswich Town and Liverpool, where Arsenal will be playing on Wolves, and Everton will be taking on Brighton. Newcastle United will be taking on Southampton. Nottingham Forest will be playing Bournemouth, as West Ham United will be playing Aston Villa. All these games will be coming tomorrow, and on Sunday, we shall be seeing a game between Brentford and Crystal Palace, as Chelsea United will be taking on Manchester City, and all that game will also already be coming, and I will be letting you know more details of that game also on Monday. And remember, over the weekend, still Saturday, Linda Susie together with Owen Ezaga will be coming here for the edition of the Whistle Time, also to let you know of some of the games that will be played on the weekend and the statistics on how the games also will be ending as well. And remember, the league is also really back, where Real Sociedad will be taking on Real Volcano, as Mallorca will be playing on Real Madrid. And remember, Real Madrid has just signed a new gun that is in the names of Kylian Mbappe, who actually scored on the debut. Will he keep the form? All that will be coming through on the Whistle Time, as Owen Ezaga together with Linda Susie will be in here to also let you know of what continues to make round in the world of sports from 2 to 3 p.m. And with that, I come to the end of today's discussions, as I want to now officially pave way for the Areas of News team to come through to also let you know of what is happening in the world of news. And I will be bouncing back again on Monday. And with that, I really want to say, let's meet again on Monday. Goodbye.
West Nile TV.